Evening, everybody. It's 5:35 on Tuesday evening, the 28th, and this is your closing comment, and it is video number 1081. Okay, so I don't want to sound too cliched, but this morning, when all of these stocks were higher, everybody was talking about, or I shouldn't say everybody, but the teleprompter readers were again talking about Apple and quoting the price that it had to be to hit 3 trillion. And the only thing that really occurs to me is the market always looks best at the top and worst at the bottom. I don't know why these idiots are talking like 3 trillion is some magical number. It's not. It's arbitrary. It's a nice accomplishment, but it doesn't mean anything to the price of the stock whatsoever. And by the end of the day, the market, which was higher this morning, finished lower. The only one that was up was the Dow, and it was pretty interesting in that of the Dow stocks, the Dow 30, 22 were up and 8 were down, which is, almost 3-to-1 to the upside, and I get that, and that is an interesting way to look at it. But the two biggest gainers in the Dow were United Health and Boeing. United Health added 23 Dow points, and Boeing added 20, and all of the rest, both upside and downside, were single-digit moves. Only a couple managed to move more than 10 Dow points. That's not 10 points in the stock, that's 10 Dow points. So kind of a quiet day. In the meantime, even with the Dow up, internals were 17 up to 15 down on the NYSE, and we finished up 0.25%. Last night I told you that the NASDAQ was barely 1-to-1 up. Today it was 2-to-1 down 89.64, or just under 0.6%, and volume was even lighter today than it was yesterday. All this is going on while the numbers are rising exponentially for COVID, and the CDC is cutting isolation times by half to 5 days. So I'm not really sure what that means, but it just kind of makes me wonder who's driving the train. Case-Shiller numbers, which are year over year. Case-Shiller Home Index up 18.4% versus last month's annualized 19.1%. FHFA, which is a month over month, increased 1.1% versus 0.9%. Cal-Maine had earnings tonight after the close. The stock actually, in the last couple of weeks, or in the last 2 weeks, has moved from 35 to 38.5, which is 10%. It closed the day at 38.36, up $1.46. The company had turned to a profit of 2 cents a share, but was somewhat concerned about inflation, cost of feed, etc. It traded down to 34.64, and the last on it is 35.64, which was, down $1.26 on the day, but down $2.50, 3.5% from the close. As far as the mega cap stocks, you had Apple and Microsoft both down $1.13. You had Netflix down 241. You had NVDA go from +5 to -5. You had Baidu and Alibaba down. And you had Tesla go from up 25 to down 6 on the day. So a $30 range closing on the low. The S&P 500 did, in fact, make a new high over 4,800, even though it closed down at 47.86 and change, down $4.84. This is just a decent kind of pullback after these things have had a good 4 or 5 day run and they've become overbought. There's no great mystery about this. As far as the futures, corn, unfortunately, was down $10. Our option position in CORN, the ETF, unfortunately, I couldn't sell it today because by the time the corn actually made a new high. Let me put that up on the screen, make it a little clearer. It actually made a new high right into the area we were looking at. High of the day was 617 3/4. Remember, I was looking for 616. The problem was that by the time the stock market opened, it had come all the way back down to 610 or 611, was down on the day, and the options were basically bid where we bought them. So there wasn't a chance to take the profit. Frankly, I think this is just a normal and expectable pullback. We closed on the low, but also right on the rising 5-day moving average. So we'll have to see how this acts overnight tonight and tomorrow. Oil had kind of the same day. It traded as high as almost 77 after. Remember, it was not that long ago. It was trading at 66.12. 1, 2, 3, 4, just 5 days ago. So that's a pretty substantial move. Ran into the 50-day moving average. And while it still closed up on the day, it closed about 3/4 down on the range. That too does not surprise me, nor does it disturb me in the grand scheme of things. Gold, same exact situation here. I know it's getting to be monotonous, but I told you that 1820 looked like a problem area to me. And the high today was 1821.60. And we closed 1810. Like the oil, still up on the day after a pretty decent move from 1750 up to 1815 and a little consolidation and the move to 1821. Wouldn't disturb me at all to see it back at 1805 or so, 1808 or so. The trend here still looks up. Bitcoin, on the other hand, and Ethereum both came down very hard today. They started overnight, and it just continued to get worse all day. Bitcoin down almost 7%. And when I show you the Ethereum chart in a second, you'll see why it disturbs me a little. We did get back up into the recovery high here. This was 52,195. This was 52,200. And today, as I said, we came down hard. The problem is that Ethereum, which I like much better than Bitcoin, was down about the same, except that the chart looks just a little bit different. It was down basically the same, except that it came down out of what looked like a little bit of a bear flag here. Higher highs, higher lows, moving up this way. But it too came right back down to support. It closed above the 100-day moving average, not much above, but it has bounced off that 100-day average more than a few times. And I will give you a little bit better look at that. So when it broke through it here, we made a double bottom, and on the way up, it went through it, came back down right to it, consolidated across, and then went from 2800 to make a new high in the 4900 area, came back down a couple of weeks ago, and has touched it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in the last 12 days, including today. So we'll have to see how this acts overnight. This thing seems to turn on a dime, so this is definitely a wait and see. If you don't have a position in Ethereum, I would be a buyer of ETHE. Right in the area that it closed today. It closed at 34.30, down 339. We own it, and we have owned it for a while, down in the teens. So we're not hurt there at all. All right, everyone. Have a good evening. I'll be back first thing in the morning.